Good morning, Java junkies. This may be a little bit of a rambling coffee with Brent. We've done some sobering thinking over the last few days, and I haven't really talked about coronavirus, COVID-19, the novel coronavirus, on these talks. So I'm going to talk about that today. I have always been in the camp that data is what matters, not fear-mongering headlines or anything like that. And I started crunching the numbers. So let me spill some things out, try to summarize some things. So people talk about herd immunity. The data says, the scientists say, estimations based on the effective reproductive number of the SARS-CoV-2 virus is about 70%. So you want herd immunity, you need to get about 70% of the population. Now, based on the growth rate, this is where my numbers are going to be a little fuzzy. I think if we look at the numbers and we look at the serological studies that have been done, so serology looks at the antibodies that are in your blood. I'm not going to go into details about that, but it is able to estimate what percentage of the population has already had the virus. And the fact of the matter is the virus results in a very mild illness for a lot of the people. I mean, 99% of the people. And then for the other 10 to 1% that it can be a very severe illness. That's one of the reasons I've been saying, hey, let's live carefully but not fearfully. We should take this seriously but not live in a panic. So that said, the numbers I heard the governor of Florida talking about the other day was an infection fatality rate of about 0.26% or 0.28%. I think those numbers are from the CDC. I'm going to say that's roughly 3 times the flu infection fatality rate for the flu, which is about 0.1%. So let's just talk about what that means if we extrapolate everything out. So I think we're probably going to have a vaccine before we reach herd immunity of about 70%. If that's the case, let's say we're about, roughly speaking, about 10% of the population has been exposed to SARS-CoV-2 and had the illness and either recovered or passed away or developed the antibodies and recovered. So if we're at about 10% now, 4 months in, for another 4 months in, be 20-25%. Let's say we get to a year, so next March, beginning of next March, we're looking at, say, 50% of the population will have had it, and then we can all be doing the vaccine, which treatments look promising. That would mean Florida, with a population of 22 million people, 11 million people will have had the virus. And that means, if I'm doing my math correctly, I'm just going to round it to a 0.3 infection fatality rate. That means about 33,000 people will have died from the virus. And we're about at 3,500 people right now. So about 10 times as many people have died from the virus. Now, I know there's some people who say we have to stop every death. That's ridiculous. We have to stop as many deaths as we can. That's getting closer. I think we have to stop needless deaths, and there are steps we can take to do that to protect the most vulnerable population. But let's talk about what a needless death is. So the original thing that we were told when this all started was, hey, we've got to flatten the curve and slow the spread. And guys, that's still the case. And let me talk about why. So flattening the curve prevents needless deaths. It prevents needless deaths because if the curve is not flattened, then our healthcare resources are overrun. And people sit in hallways instead of in an ICU where they can be treated properly, and they may die because of that lack of treatment. So that would be a needless death. The other thing that we can sort of count in needless death is, as we've gone along, if you read the studies, they're finding ways to treat the virus to help prevent people from going from a mild case to a severe case to critical to death. And as they find new ways of treating it, we discover new things about it from anything from, how does the vitamin D level, proning, in terms of treatment, and remdesivir. I'm not sure if I'm saying that properly. These are all things that are improving and advancing our treatment modalities. And so if everybody's going to got it right now, not only would the hospitals be overrun, we wouldn't know how to treat them. So if we flatten the curve and slow the spread, that means if you get it 6 months from now, and you might have died if you got it today, you might not die in 6 months, because we're going to know better how to treatment, even if we don't have a vaccine yet. So, I am still in the camp that we can't completely shut things down. Because if you saved a few of those, say here in Florida, I said, about 33,000 lives? If you saved 5, 6, 7,000 lives, that would be great. There would be mortalities in other areas with people avoiding treatment, depression, there'd be other problems, health problems, that would lead to early death. It's just a little harder to track. I've always been a proponent early on for wearing masks, because, and I just read a really good academic comment the other day about how it makes it difficult for your droplets and droplet nuclei, which are those really tiny aerosols that tend to float beyond 6 feet. It makes it harder for those to go towards other people, and they're more likely to stay within a more defined and close perimeter to you, radius to you. So we should still do that. Social distancing, absolutely. And of course, you feel bad, stay home, all that stuff. So we're not going to stop it. Let's stop pretending that we can stop it. We can't. But we can do things to give everybody a better chance, so we don't have needless deaths. And, support healthcare workers, those on the front lines. They are possibly at more risk. And I say possibly because there may be some evidence out there that a minor exposure to small amounts of the SARS-CoV-2 virus can help build up antibodies in some of them, but some of them are older and they're at risk. So let's do what we can to help them, support them, and support each other, and especially the vulnerable population. My wife and I are launching a business that is designed to help this vulnerable population. And, we've got to be really careful with them. And we don't need laws about this. I know some people think we do, but, look, I know at heart we're all kind of selfish. It's just true. And, I pray for a revival in our country, just so people will be convicted of their own selfishness and their own self-centeredness and act on behalf of others. I'm just going to be quiet. I've gone over 9 minutes. That's a lot longer than I usually do. And, just think about what the numbers are and what, 0.28 IFR represents. And I encourage you to make a choice to benefit others and to think of others more highly than yourself. That's it. Peace. Have a great day.